I mean, I did my part. I played basketball. I mean, just, you know, there was an argument that maybe Russia was going to invade, although that was kind of, you know, iffy. But somebody's got to take a look at it, because that is really they talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. You can find more in the Pentagon than anywhere else. And again, national defense is not trying to figure out how to build a nation out of civilizations that were existing when we didn't have anything but rocks and trees and caves.
It would be, and has been, a mission doomed to failure whenever we've tried to do that, and it's not going to change. It's a huge, tremendous waste of resources, human resources, fiscal resources, as well as you know, the goodwill that we need to accomplish certain goals around the world when we engage in these exercises, these nation-building exercises, which everybody in Washington knows that that's exactly what they're doing, but they never want to say it, but that is what it is. What I think we need to do, Mike, in looking at defense spending, is put the emphasis back on defense. Engaging in probably 80% of what we engage in from a military standpoint around the world. I'm just using that, you know, that figure sort of hypothetically. I'm not sure it's 80 or maybe more, or a little bit less. Is not really directly related to our national defense. It may be related to somebody's view of our national interest or national desires or national goals, but I think the emphasis needs to be brought back to national defense. Now, does that mean we have no military presence around the world? No, I don't think that's necessarily appropriate, but we don't need the virtually permanent, extremely expensive presence that we have in a lot of countries. So long as folks in Washington think that they're going to cure the fiscal problems that we have in you know, the national budget, spending a $14 trillion debt and so forth, by looking only at discretionary non-defense spending, we're never going to get a handle on it. They're not serious about it. You have to put defense into the equation. There is, as John mentioned, tremendous waste in defense, as in every other government department, agency, and office. And there ought not to be anything sacrosanct about the Defense Department simply because it's defense. You're not being untrue to our military by looking at it that way. It has to do with basic fiscal responsibility. It has to do with the proper role of government. And it has to do with the basic notion, the view, the philosophy of what our military needs to be doing. First and foremost, protecting our nation, and not forcing our will on other nations, despite, you know, the best intentions. It's not the proper role of the military. It's not the proper role of our nation, and it certainly is not something that turns out well from either in the long run, from a diplomatic, economic, or military standpoint as well. But we just can't seem to break away from doing it. One administration, Democrat or Republican, after another.
Do you have anything else?
Well, no, I mean, I'm trying to remember a lot of money about something called the MX missile. I don't even remember if they built it. We had a neutron bomb. That if it dropped, it would have killed all of us, but the building would have still stood, which made a lot of sense. And then a lot of other weaponry that waste a lot of money on, or spend a lot of money on, never use them, never even get it to the point you could use it if you wanted to, and it's wasted. So there's waste in, like I say, in everything, but when the biggest piece of the budget really is defense spending or military spending, just percentage-wise, if everything's being equal, 5% of that's a hell of a lot bigger than 5% of the education budget.
My fourth question concerns overlaps between left-leaning liberals, Tea Partiers, Libertarians about the Second Amendment access to guns. The Second Amendment is controversial because some would like to limit access to guns in an effort to reduce gun-related violence, while others claim access to a gun is essential for hunting and self-protection against people in government. I'm wondering where there may be agreement between progressives and Tea Parties and Libertarians on this access to guns and the Second Amendment, or if there is no
eyes. I mean, I probably don't think there's very little agreement. I would think, I would think if any, I mean, it's just a point of view, although somebody wrote a book about the politics of guns, I heard it on the radio, but like what, you know, the militia issue, you know, well-regulated militia. So, you know, you need a militia to have guns, but there are very strong viewpoints, and I think politically there is a more visceral and stronger position held by, say, Libertarians, Tea Parties, and, you know, for the want of a better, maybe right-wing Republicans than there is from those of us bleeding hearts that just feel that it doesn't make sense. But the other part of it is, I don't know what the hell you could do about guns anyway, unless you went in everybody's house and everybody's garage and everybody's backyard and just grabbed them, because they're out there. And if you stop people from buying any gun today or manufacturing any gun, you know, your neighbor's going to sell you his gun if you really want it. So it's a tough question. You know, there's safety issues that I think that we should agree on, but even like the NRA, sometimes they don't agree on anything. But like, you know, if you have kids in the house, maybe you should have the gun in a lockbox. But the last thing I'll say is there was a gun issue. Abner Mikva was carrying the bill, and Bob knows who he is. But he was a very, quote, gun control guy, and this woman came in and she needed a gun in her home for self-defense. Well, aren't you, you know, if an intruder comes in, so well, aren't you afraid that, you know, your children would be able to get it in an accident? A lot of the deaths come that way, accidental. It's absolutely not. I keep my gun locked in a drawer.